my remarks are as follows. So in 2014, we had a change of leadership at the MacArthur Foundation. And our president, who came in newly, said, well, MacArthur have been in operation in Nigeria for the last 30 years or so. Now that you have been in Nigeria for the last 30 years, if you were to do one thing, what you really want for your country, and not something that Chicago wants to do, what is the most important thing that you should focus on? And she said us, look, and I don't want an essay, I just want you to write 2-page reflections. So on the basis of that, we went around the country, talked to a lot of people, and Nigerians raised 4 things, which they think are more important to them at that point. Number one issue they raised was insecurity. That was at the height of Boko Haram, and of course it's not surprising that a lot of people thought that insecurity was a major problem for them. Number 2 problem they raised was accountability and corruption. Lack of accountability and corruption. Number 3 issue they raised was lack of public services, education, health, electricity, and all kinds of things. But number 4 issue they raised was that there is actually an opportunity if we can work with young people. That young people are our resources, our future. Why don't we consider working with young people? So on the basis of those 4 conversations that we had, we sat down, we reflected upon it. We said, yes, insecurity is critical, it's very important. But the foundation said, well, we're not going to buy you AK-47, so probably that is not an option that you should consider. But I think that central to all the 4 issues that have been raised is really the issue of accountability and corruption is so critical to all of them. So even if you look at the challenges of insecurity in the country, one of the major challenges is the reality that the resources that are being voted for security purposes really do not go for security purposes. And those of all who have followed some of the conversations around the Suki Gate and all the generals and others who have stolen money or who have been alleged to have stolen money, clearly showed that if those resources were effectively and efficiently used for the purpose of security, probably the problem would have been minimized. Maybe we will not have eradicated, but certainly some of the problems we will have minimized. Similarly, if you look at the challenges of public services, like education, like health, like water, and other things. Many of you follow the tracker that is being established by many of people around. I'm glad that ICPC is taking the constituency project as key issue that has been there. Every year, I believe about 100 billion naira goes for constituency projects, but we don't see what is there in those places as well. So even if you look at the problem of public service, yes, I'm sure that we could have done more if we have more resources, but the reality is that even the resources that we have, we are not really actually spending for the purpose for which the resources are spent. And then if you look at the situation of young people, the challenges that young people face, whether in terms of employment, in terms of their inability to optimize their opportunities and other things, all of these are all tied to the challenges around lack of accountability and insecurity in the country. So on those bases, I think the foundation then decided that probably the best thing we can do is really to focus on accountability and anti-corruption. Because if we can support the Nigerian government to spend its own resources more efficiently and more effectively, probably that's the most important contribution that we can make to the country. Because even if you take the whole money that the NACASIP Foundation has, whether we are going to build hospitals or clinics or roads or whatever, our resources is infinitum compared to the resources that the country has. In fact, if you look at the total contribution of development partners to Nigeria is about 2% of our budget. So which means that actually if we use our own budget effectively and efficiently, we can actually do much more better than what the development partners are doing in other things. So on those bases, I think the foundation decided that the most important contribution that the foundation can make is how can we support government to spend its own resources more effectively and more efficiently, so that it can now transform the lives of the citizens, so that citizens can now feel much better. So for us in the MacArthur Foundation, the work around accountability and corruption at the end of the day is about people, about ordinary citizens, about the lives of the people, because that is why we do that. We are not people like that who are lawyers who read all this law and say corruption is good or bad and doesn't know. We are not involved in this work around corruption because it's about law and rules and regulation. We are involved in it because we believe that the central purpose of the state, the central purpose of government is to provide public service to its own citizens, whether it's about education, in terms of health or whatever. And we believe that if we can support that aspect of the government to do the work that it is doing, then that for us is the most effective and most efficient way in which we can contribute towards the realization of the goals of the state itself. So in doing this work, I think that is why this grant to CDD was made. I think that, and that is to support the government itself, so that it can support its own agencies. And its own agencies then will be able to provide the oversight to make the prevention so that citizens can actually provide public service to their own citizens. And I think that is one thing I hope that the anti-corruption agencies can also, in my view, emphasize why they are doing this work they are doing. It's not about jailing people, that's why they are not happy. I'm sure none of them is happy that they just don't want to jail people. Or none of them is happy just in order to harass people. I think that they are doing what they are doing because they want to improve the quality of lives of our own citizens. And I think that message, in my view, is something that we need to send and talk about in terms of the anti-corruption agencies, that we are here doing what we are doing because we want to make sure that if Nigerians are entitled to food, if Nigerians are entitled to electricity, if Nigerians are entitled to education or water and other things, we really want to make sure that those services are provided for them. So anti-corruption agencies are not just about rules and regulations, but it's about the welfare and the good health and the good education of the ordinary citizens. So I want them to see themselves actually as a development agency in a different way. There's a development agency that looks at its own role more in terms of development rather than in terms of rules and regulations and jailing people or harassing people or whatever that they want to. So I think that we need also to change the discourse about the anti-corruption agencies as development agencies that are contributing to development, but in a different way from, let's say, Ministry of Education or Ministry of Health or Ministry of Works or whatever, which the other agencies are primarily doing and other things. So this work that is coming, being supported at CDD is part of a larger work. And I want to say that the MacArthur Foundation, I think, supports about 100 organizations in the country. Most of them are civil society organizations, but we believe that, and our own hypothesis of change is that you need to change, you need to strengthen government, and you also need to support civil society. We believe that it's only, even government with the base of goodwill, you need to also to make sure that they are on their toes. Don't assume that because government is good and other things, then you should just let them, allow them to do whatever they want to do. No. So that's why we call it the voice from the ground and then the teeth from the upper one. So the combination of the voice and the teeth that we believe is going to make the change that we all desire to see. So this work that we are doing, in our language, we call the teeth. It is the sanction, it is the incentive that we want to give to people. There are a number of civil society groups and organizations that we support that we call them the voice, people who are supposed to make the demand for those changes to happen and other things. So in this work, I think there is support for capacity building, which I really want to call skills building, rather than capacity building. There is support for technical assistance. There will be infrastructural support and as well as coordination. Now, this issue of coordination is very, very, very important. It's so critical in terms of the work that we are doing. Now, many of you who have followed the 9/11 problem in the US, if you read the report, if you look at the report says something like, it is not a surprise. I think that was the title of this. That was the title of the report. It is not a surprise. It's not a surprise because all the security agencies have some information about what was likely to happen in 2011. Oh, it's just a shock, but not surprise. Shock, but not surprise, because all the intelligence services had some inkling that something was about to happen on September 11th in 2001. But nobody had a big picture of what was happening across. there was no coordination among the intelligence services to prevent what was going to happen in 2001. So it says shock, but not surprise, because it was not surprising because all the intelligence agencies had some inkling that something was going to happen, but nobody was able to coordinate and put dots around those information in order to have the big picture. So you find that the lack of coordination is a very, very critical factor in all the major things that we see. Even if we are in our country, you see the lack of coordination among our own intelligence services. That's why you have some of these problems that are happening, because the right hand think that, oh, this is their domain, this is their right, so they want to do what they want to do, and therefore they are independent of everybody. Then the other one will also say that then Boko Haram is going to attack other people, although the other knew that this was going to happen, but there was no system that would actually coordinate and convey the information that this was going to happen, and therefore we need a coordinated strategy on how do we prevent this problem from happening. So that's why we are very, very excited in some ways that this meeting is happening, because I think that all of you have come together to have a work plan. And that is, for me, is the beginning of the kind of coordination that needs to happen. So if all of you have a similar work plan, all of you know what the other person is doing, then I think that that is the beginning of the kind of coordination that we need in order to respond to the challenges of corruption that will happen. So I hope that as you are doing this coordination, as you are bringing about, you are bringing your people together, I think all of us have to set aside our claims about our mandate, about our independence, but actually, in most cases, it's about egos. So you have egos of big people who think that well, I'm the executive director of this. The other one will say, I'm the executive director of this. So on what basis do you think that we have to either talk to you, or this is our responsibility, this is not your responsibility, or the other one's responsibility? And in the process, the whole country suffers. I think that if all of us have a vision, and if all of us have a goal, and if all of us have a commitment, a bigger vision of what we want to do for this country in terms of anti-corruption, all these egos will dissolve. Because all of us will see that we are all contributing towards a bigger goal. All of us are contributing towards a bigger vision about this country itself. So I want to commend the process that you have started by coming together, developing a work plan, and I hope that in the process of implementation, you will also implement, and I hope that all of you will be committed to this bigger vision of how do we improve the quality of lives of ordinary citizens in this country.
Let me start by thanking the CED for the invitation and the commendable initiative. Interagency coordination and collaboration is essential to the fight against corruption in Nigeria. It is indeed one of the key recommendations in the first UNCAP review which was conducted in 2013, and the second one which was just concluded in 2017 as a result of publishing the website. As a signatory to the UNCAP, Nigeria, as well as other member states, have indicated their commitment to promoting and strengthening measures to prevent and combat corruption more efficiently and effectively. They have also indicated commitment to promoting, facilitating, and supporting international cooperation and technical assistance in the area of prevention and asset recovery. Also, they have indicated commitment to promoting integrity, accountability, and proper management of public affairs and public property. To achieve this commitment, it is essential that the government and the institution is established operate in a coordinated fashion and communicate regularly with one another so as to carry out mutual monitoring of corruption activities as well as individuals. This is to ensure that the systems, and also to ensure the systems put in place are less susceptible to corruption. You will all agree that public trust in government, anti-corruption agencies, and anti-corruption policies and measures is a key to successful fight against corruption in any country. As such, public experience and perceptions of government anti-corruption initiatives and institutions can, to a large extent, play a key role in monitoring the performance of government's political will, institutional ability, and integrity to execute reforms to fight corruption. So, let's have a look at what the effectiveness, how effective are the anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria today. UNODC has been working in the area of anti-corruption since 2001, and we've done quite a number of capacity building for different anti-corruption agencies and government organizations, as well as civil societies. One of the key things we did was the conducting of a survey in 2017. The report was released in 2017, but the survey was conducted in 2015. And that's the corruption survey in collaboration with the National Bureau of Statistics under our old project support to anti-corruption in Nigeria, funded by the European Union. In that survey, there were certain statistics that came out, and I just want to point out a few that relates to the topic we are discussing today. Bribery incident experienced by citizens in Nigeria. The focus of the survey was really on bribery, just so we're clear. But only a small share are reported to official authorities, and a minority percentage, 3.8% only, to anti-corruption agencies. Also, citizens stated they had little faith in organizations, in government organizations in general. This finding raises questions on the effectiveness of the agencies, that's anti-corruption agencies. When citizens were directly asked about whether they were aware of existence of relevant anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria, a large majority claimed that they were. Most mentioning the police, EFCC, ICPC, and some other agencies, also Ministry of Justice, Federal High Court. However, less than a third of Nigerians are aware that of other anti-corruption agencies. The report indicated a vast majority of bribery cases are not reported to anti-corruption agencies. As a result, it provides, in their opinion, they consider the reporting process pointless and lacking any real consequences. So they really wanted some action. They would like agencies where it's not just saying you will do things, but they are actually doing things. We are currently working on the second survey, which allows opportunity for anti-corruption agencies to see the progress that have been made from the last anti-corruption survey. A study conducted by DFID in 2010, as well as our own experience in the field, made clear that the mandates of numerous anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria often overlap, which has potential to cause interagency rivalry, duplication, and lack of vital cooperation and
coordination. Law enforcement agencies, regulatory bodies may have many things to do with the fight against corruption. And during that meeting, we made it very clear that the anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria alone cannot be able to fight the corruption we have in the country unless and until all the law enforcement agencies and regulatory bodies play their roles and complement the efforts of the anti-corruption agencies. Therefore, arising from that, the President affirmed when we had the anti-corruption summit organized by the EFCC that based on what we did as a committee, the stage is now set for a collaborative approach towards fighting corruption in Nigeria. Therefore, this effort will be very much appreciated by the government, especially because the government has realized that what brought it into power in 2015, security, economy, fighting corruption, is still, or there are still issues that are germane even today. Therefore, fighting corruption is a duty that must be done, but must be done with the collaboration of everybody. And so on this note, I want to confirm to you the government is determined, the government is serious, and there is no going back. The only thing that may be different will be the approach. I've always said that in fighting corruption in Nigeria, we have had our frustration using the legal system. Very slow, sometimes rewarding, sometimes not very rewarding. Therefore, we are likely to see the use of non-conviction based offset perpetual regime, in which the anti-corruption agencies will go after the property, not the individual. If government goes after the property, there will be quiet from the human rights community, there will not be civil liberty issues, there will not be serious constitutional issues, and the onus of proof will not shift from the government to the person being suspected. So we are going to see some innovative approaches so that people get deterred and the fight against corruption gets more momentum. It's on this note that I wish us the very best, believing that, like College team has always said, doing this will improve the lives of our people. And I always believe in what he has said, improving eventually the lives of our people is the ultimate goal of all the things we have been doing and will continue to do. I wish us success. Thank you very much.
The chairman of ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasoye, he would have loved to be here, but he had a prior commitment before the CDD invitation came. So right now he's in Lagos attending another function. So he has asked me to thank CDD for the invitation and for organizing this event. ICPC is already working with sister agencies to minimize the situation where petitioners write to every anti-corruption agency, even to the Presidential Advisory Committee against Corruption, sometimes to the presidency. So sometimes you find that every anti-corruption agency will be engaged in the investigation of a single petition. And sometimes these investigations cost each anti-corruption agency minimally 4 million naira. And this money is from the same source, the Federation account. So on average, if EFCC is investigating a case, ICPC is investigating, the police is investigating a similar case, you will find that the government loses revenue. So what ICPC, the new board of the ICPC did is to enter into a memorandum of understanding with EFCC so that whenever a petition is received and there's indication that EFCC is already taking action, ICPC will stay put. And also, there is in place an interagency tax group on IFF. ICPC is housing that task group, and the essence is to improve coordination in tracking, tracing, and retrieval of illicit assets. There's some coordination going on, but this forum offers an opportunity for the anti-corruption agencies to intensify that coordination so that the objective of minimizing corruption can be realized. So on that note, I wish to felicitate with CDD, and ICPC welcomes the opportunity for the intensified training, the intensified opportunities for anti-corruption agencies to work together in the fight against corruption. Thank you.
want to congratulate the CDD and the NACASIP Foundation for this initiative, which is coming at a very auspicious time. We are starting the next step in our governance and anti-corruption fight, and this comes at a very useful moment. What I want to emphasize here is the role of the development partners in our governance, and especially in anti-corruption work. What we require you to do is to say those truths which we are not able to say to ourselves. Those issues that we have not averted our minds to, or we are reluctant to point out to ourselves, it is your responsibility to bring that to our attention. Secondly, the huge resources we are deploying in our country should be deployed in such a way that the agencies use them to work collaboratively. In other words, your emphasis should be on those activities where the different agencies can work together, as opposed to the individual agenda of the agencies. And then further, what we also need is for you to draw attention to the international good practices, which we have not already incorporated in our work. With your vast experience in other clients, you are in a very good position to do that. I just want to emphasize those three issues, and to once more, thank you very much.
One thing that was mentioned earlier, and virtually every single individual that has said something on this stage said, was cooperation and collaboration. Then the last speaker also mentioned something about interagency rivalry and so on and so forth. I wish to state clearly here that the FIU would be, I believe we are the best to tell you about interagency rivalry, and coming from our experience anyway. Of course, you have been following the events in the news, what has happened long before now, before we came to have an independent, autonomous financial intelligence unit, just like any other FIU in the global arena. Unfortunately, we have suffered so much from the interagency rivalry that has come up. Being part of the EFCC initially, we have seen it from the inside, and now we are facing it from the outside. Because in some balance, when we talk or when we say a little bit about what we are supposed to do, some agencies feel that we are there to take away their jobs. I wish to stand here and make it very clear. We are more or less a clearing house. Our job is to support both the investigator and the judiciary arm of within this palace. What we are trying to do is to take in data, show it, and regurgitate, or to throw it out to you in terms of intelligence, showing you what is most important in the fight against not only corruption, but all predicate offenses. And what is that? The process of the criminal activity. That's what we are only interested in. We agree traditionally, crime is traditionally has been, the fighting of crime has been following the individual criminal, apprehending him, and so on. What we want to bring in as the new FIU with our new repositioning is to make the enabling environment completely inconducive for the crime to take place at the first level. Once that is done, we believe a lot of our investigating agencies and our judges will be going home early because there is less work to be done. We are not promising you that we are going to remove crime entirely, but it is going to be reduced. I give you a small thing that happened a couple of days ago, a small story. I was going through the report of NDLEA some times ago, and from the statistics what we see is that for first year, I will not mention years, but for first year there's a number, let's say 2 arrests were made. The value of what was confiscated or seized or interdicted for the purpose of interim forfeiture is there, maybe say 100 naira. The following year, it increased. The number of arrests increased, the number of what was seized increased. The third year, so the graph was showing a steep rise year after year. And the chap that I was going through that with was really happy to say, see, we are working. Last year we arrested 2, this year we arrested 4, next year we'll arrest 5. Now, the general idea that I have at the back of my mind is that if we are collaborating and we are working towards the same objective, these numbers should be coming down. The number of arrests should come down, the number of confiscations or seizures or whatever it is that we call it, will be coming down, because we will be removing the proceeds from the field, such that if they go to the field to commit the crime, the process will not be there, or remove the enablers that makes them commit the crime, such that the crime will not even have a way of being committed, or completely eradicate that, make a penalty that will make the crime completely enticing, such that when you think about committing the crime, because if you know the theories of criminology, one of them say that it's a rational choice. You decide, the decision is based on how much am I going to get and how much am I going to put in. Now, if the criminal looks at what he's going to put in, and then at the end of the day he's not going to get much, I'm sure that rational choice will play a role. So he will not commit the crime because it is not worth it. That's just the bottom line. I wish to draw your attention again to the second issue, which is the main issue actually, of collaboration. This is talking directly to the second recommendation of the FATF. And for your information, I know most of us know about it here. Nigeria is going to face a mutual evaluation, the second round of mutual evaluation by September, October. And here we are looking at effectiveness. It is not the number, it is not the laws that you have, it is not the number of arrests or convictions that you have, but how effective is the system. And effectiveness of a system will only be judged when the number of those that are being investigated or arrested or incidences is coming down. So cooperation in this sense has to play a key role. We need to identify with ICPC, identifying with DSS, DSS identifying with EFCC, EFCC looking at the police. We need data. We will be, if you like, do not trust EFCC or trust ICPC. Trust us. We will create a platform where ICPC will request for information that can only be obtained by us from EFCC, and then we will give it to ICPC. ICPC will go and do their jobs. That's what we are asking for. And that is what we want to, don't look at it as if we want to take away somebody's job. No. What we don't arrest, we don't investigate, but we conduct our own analysis based on data that we get from you, data that we get from the judiciary, data that we get from the prisons, data that we get from each of these law enforcement and the private sector, the banks, virtually the entire reporting entities. If this thing is not happening in Bank A, it might be happening in Bank B. If it's not happening in Bank B, be rest assured that it is happening in a jewelry somewhere in faraway Kano. So proceeds can move. They are invaluable, they are intangible, and they can move within seconds from Nigeria to Australia. And going after the criminal and what he has stolen or what he has taken away as proceeds can be a daunting task. If you are lucky, you get a fraction of it. If you are not, you don't get anything. So why do we have to wait to go through the process of recovery rather than to go through the process of completely not having the sickness from the first instance? And I believe that is why the doctors are much better than us in this field, because they have thought of what they call rigakafi, what do you call it, immunization. They immunize you before you get the disease. So what we are asking for is, we want all of us to come together answered FATF recommendation 2 in terms of collaboration, such that we get the country immunized. I used to know that in those days, these people that wear white, the environmental people, they used to go street by street in my village to ask, yes, sanitary officers, to ask people to sweep their gutters and so on. Why? Because mosquitoes. And I believe a lot of us here have taken Daraprim on a weekly basis to protect you from going to the hospital to get the chloroquine injection then. So why are we not thinking in that direction? And it is not far-fetched. Let's think in that direction. Let's collaborate and see that these things do not happen from the first instance, and then we move forward. Thank you very much.
I want to use this opportunity to appreciate CDD and MacArthur Foundation for giving us the opportunity to participate in this program. The anti-corruption fight is a task that has to be done and done effectively. It's no longer news. Our president has said it over and over again that if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. As an agency, we are at the forefront of anti-corruption fight. We have the constitutional mandate, and that's the job we have been doing. Each one, every person in the office has signed to do that from the first day he joined service till the point of exit. We see this initiative as a stepping stone to greater collaboration with other anti-corruption agencies in this country. And we believe that our rewards will no longer be in heaven, because over the years, the office will carry out audits, and the reports would lie there in Parliament for years. Yes, they will try their best, but because of the volume, they may not even be able to identify the serious ones. But with this collaboration, I want to believe that the office would go into something that has not been very effective before now. We're going to focus on the preventive angle. We have massive data on corruption cases, which I believe when our colleagues in the anti-corruption agencies take hold of them, it will make their work easier. They will not go about investigating allegations without supporting data or information. We're going to put in our best, and the opportunity of giving us by funding some of our programs, I believe, will make a mark. We appreciate you for this program and activities. Thank you so much.
I spoke at an internal meeting of this project, and I thought today was the day my boss, the chair, would finally speak for the IGC. But having come all the way from Ghana, from the University of Ghana, to join you, I think it's apt that I say a few words. And to say how pleased and proud I am that the CDD is working with 5 important agencies to to address this problem of fighting corruption. As you know, corruption is not a particular country's problem. It's a global problem, and it's a multi-trillion-dollar problem, and it's something that all countries have to fight if they will develop. I really like what my chair said at the beginning, that fighting corruption is actually about people, it's about development, it's about reducing waste and ensuring that governments are able to deliver to our citizens, because that's what we put them in place for. And I also want to reiterate the importance of not doing this in a counterproductive way. And I'm very happy that this project is very interested in coordination, collaboration, and not duplicating efforts. Because we've heard that it's very expensive to investigate one case. It's in the millions. One of our colleagues said it's millions of naira. So if all the agencies are investigating the same case, obviously we are being too expensive. We might as well not even investigate, because the cost of investigation might actually be the same as the cost to the nation of corruption. So I'm really happy that we are reiterating this. I also want to draw attention to something which has been happening in my country, which I think is also a problem for the institutions that investigate corruption. I think politicians sometimes misuse anti-corruption agencies to basically retaliate against their opponents. So when the government comes to power, they start investigating the government that has just left. And they, in my view, waste their time and the credibility and the legitimacy of anti-corruption agencies in this exercise. So I hope that in this project, this is something that we'll pay attention to, so that our anti-corruption drive keeps its legitimacy and it's not used as a tool for dealing with political opponents. And I believe that the issue of coordination will help to address this issue as well. So I'd like to leave it here and say I wish our 5 agencies all the best in the work that they are about to do with the CDD. We in the CDD will pledge that we will also do our best to do what we need to do to ensure that this project is successful. So I wish everybody success. Thank you.